Bonjour, everybody. Today we will be discussing the war between France and England that lasted for a whole century. I got this picture from a YouTube video called The 100 Years War, posted by a man named Brian Reeves. Obviously, I can't get 100 years worth of details in one PowerPoint, but here is a brief introduction. This always takes a couple times to go if it wants to go. Okay, brief intro. The war stemmed from everyone battling for the French throne. It even says in an online article published by Kip Willer in the 1360s, the French are winning. However, the English took away that winning streak to which they were on top from 1415 to 1422. So as you can see, the whole war just generally seesaws back and forth for the next century. More people lose their lives, just your usual war casualties. If you want to find out who won, you have to listen to the rest of this presentation to the end. So bear with me. This is France before the war. I got this picture off of www.emersonkent.com, and this is in 1314. So the orange over here, this is France, and the green is England, obviously. And yeah, so as you can see, England kind of has a little bit of their territory inside, right next to France, and then they're also up here, and France is just all around that green part. And then different times during the war, France and England, and this picture actually comes from the same website that was in the last slide. So as you can see, this is in 1337 before the Battle of Crecy. I don't know how to pronounce that. I'm sorry, I'm butchering it. So yeah, France is orange over here, and England's still green, and France kind of got a little bit of England because they were winning at the beginning. Remember what I mentioned in the introduction? Yeah. So they kind of squashed England a little bit. And that's what's happening in this picture over here. France got more territory. And then we go on to this one. This is in 1360 after the Battle of Poitiers. I'm going to move this little record thing. Okay, after the Battle of Poitiers. So England is still green, France is still orange. I don't know why it would change. And you have their little battle symbol up here. That means there was a battle. It's this little red star. I don't know if you could barely see it. It's tiny. It's kind of tiny. You have to look. And as you can see, the difference between England and this one, it was smaller here because France was winning, and then England took their land back. So, yeah. That's where battles stem from, because they're fighting for the land. And then we go down to this one. This is in 1429 after the Siege of Orleans. This is where a lady named Joan of Arc comes in. She is going to be very important and will be discussed later on. But this is a route she took when she was leading the French troops to battle England. These little red arrows. This is where she went. And this is where the battle happened. And England, she kind of helped France a lot because England was kicking their butt in the second one. She was like, nope, you're not kicking our butt. And they got that part back. So it was like bingo bongo, seesaw effect, like I said. And then you have 1453, the end of the war. And this is where France is all orange now. There's no more England in this part. England's up here where they belong, and France has their own land again. And the yellow part is where they got Burgundian back, because over here I forgot to mention, England kind of took Burgundian and these little gray, but this is where they allied with Burgundian, and then over here in the yellow, France reconciled with them. So that's cool. That's just the whole progress of that's the majority of events of the war. Just took 100 years. Now for us to go on to the next slide. Okay. Important people. This is where the tea comes in. Joan of Arc. this painting is actually off of I got it off Britannica. Well, I didn't get it off Britannica. They kind of had it in their thing, but it was actually painted by Jules Bastien Lepage. But the information on her I did get off of Britannia. But, so, she was known as the Maid of Orleans, and according to Britannica, quote, a peasant girl who, believing that she was acting under divine guidance, led the French army in a momentous victory at Orleans that repulsed an English attempt to conquer France. And she did this by dressing like a man and cutting her hair short, kind of like Milan from that Disney movie. I think that's where there's, So she dressed like a man, cut her hair short to blend in with the troops, and she led everyone to battle England in March 1429. She was only 16 at the time. Imagine 16-year-olds doing that now. Nowadays they do all that. Just like go to school and TikTok and Instagram. Yeah, and 16-year-olds are crazy back then. But unfortunately, at the age of 19, England troops eventually captured her, and she was accused of witchcraft and treason for dressing like a man. They burned her to death on a stake, and she's just remembered because her victory helped turn the tide of France's defeat, because England was kicking their butt, and then Joan came in, and she was like, no, this is my land, like our land, this land is my land, this is, Yeah, she was a cool girl. And here we have Charles V of France. He was important because he was kind of like a ruler at the time of the 100-year war happening, in the 1350s and 60s. He was kind of getting grumpy because England was having the land during that time, in the 50s and 60s of the 1300s. That's when France was losing, and King Charles didn't like that. And my cat just jumped on my keyboard and skipped it. I'm sorry, that I did not mean for that to happen. Shit. Okay. So, back to what I was saying. Charles v. France, he was not happy about England winning. He was very determined to reverse the situation. As stated in the website France This Way, during his reign, he captured much of the lost territory and won the leading Brittany lords back to the side of France. The most honorable lord he won back was Du Guesclin, a Breton, Breton, leader who became a French general and won many victories for the French in the years to come. I got the picture of Charles off of this website called the History Collection. Now, effects of the war. According to the article, The 100 Years' War, Consequences and Effects by Mark Cartwright, some examples of effects are the consolidation of the French monarch's control all over France, innovations in form of tax collections, a tangible rivalry between the two nations, which still continues today, seen particularly in sports such as football and rugby. A greater feeling of nationalism amongst the populations of both countries. There were more effects, but I obviously have to keep this brief because it's 100 years. And obviously, one can assume that a lot of stuff probably happened in that whole century. It actually lasted more than 100 years. People do calculations, find out it's 163. Some people say 180 something. It's different answers. But all I know is it was more than 100, so a lot of stuff probably happened in between those times. A lot of people lost their lives, sadly. Yeah. So, who won? Actually don't know the answer to that. So this presentation is about to end. Just kidding, got you. Did I get you? Hopefully I did. You probably were like, no, cliffhanger. But yeah, don't worry, I know who won. The French! Yeah. So that's the end of that. The French won that war. England shouldn't have tried to take land that wasn't theirs in the first place. This is what happens when you try things that aren't yours. Don't steal, kids. That's the moral lesson of today.